So I have a few slides to show you today of the activity that occurred earlier today. A little overview of the lava flow that formed, the short lava flow that formed yesterday, and to talk a little bit about Pu'uo'o that started it all. But first of all, I would like to say that we have a lot of people within the Geological Survey, both at the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory and on the mainland, that are watching things here as closely as possible. We have at least 2 people watching the seismic streams 24/7 overnight. And we also have crews stationed 24/7 down here in Leilani and around the activity, so that when activity changes, that information can be reported, first of all, directly to Hawaii County CD. And then secondly, we try to get the information on the website. We fell behind today. For that I apologize, but we're trying to do a little bit better in getting some more rapid photos and maps on display. So today, the main points, 2 new fissures were active earlier today, but these fissures did not generate any new lava flow. The amount of lava that was erupted was very little. There were spattering events. The 2 vents were very close together. They were only active for 2 to 3 hours or so at a time. I'll show you some aerials of those. The longest fissure was only about on the order of 750 feet long. And those fissures were not active as of about 4 o'clock. And as far as I know, no new fissures have developed. The second point that was new for us today is that new cracks were reported on Highway 130 uprift of the fissures. So the cracks were located upslope and on the rift and on strike, relatively on line with the existing fissures. But those cracks were a little bit to the north of that alignment. So those cracks are telling us that they're forming above probably the dike, but they did not observe any steaming or any gas jetting so far from those cracks, and I believe the Transportation Department are monitoring those cracks very well. When we were there this morning and compared to this afternoon, one set of cracks only opened up about 1/2 inch. During the fountaining episodes or fissure activity, there's a lot of sulfur dioxide gas that escapes and ingested into the air. So depending on where the wind is blowing, that leads to high levels of sulfur dioxide gas near the fissures, especially near the fissures. When we're working around those fissures, we're measuring sulfur dioxide concentrations that are far greater than we have observed anywhere else working on the volcano. So they're extremely high when you get right next to the fissures. Yesterday's lava flow was active for several hours. It is only about 6/10 of a mile long and was not active today and didn't extend any further. And main message is that more activity is expected. So this all started on April 30th, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when Pu'uo'o basically collapsed into itself. When we were able to visit Pu'uo'o a few days later, after the ash kind of cleared up a little bit, we couldn't see the bottom of Pu'uo'o. And the measurements indicate that it was probably at least 780 feet deep to what we could see. So all of that material collapsed into Pu'uo'o and the ground beneath. A little bit of lava basically erupted on the west flank. There was a little bit of lava that reached the surface. But most of that missing material, or the magma that was supporting that missing material, retreated, went down into the rift zone and started migrating and moving down rift to the lower east rift zone. And it's not just the Pu'uo'o magma that dropped and moved down the rift zone to the lower East Rift Zone, but it was also magma upslope. There's another storage area a few miles up rift around Makopui crater. It's been well known for decades, and we have clear evidence that that area dropped. So that indicates that magma that was stored up in that area also joined that below Pu'uo'o to move down into the rift zone. So that's the big picture scenario. So here is the map that was shown a few days ago on May 4th. At that time, we had, there were 8 eruptive fissures. The amount of material coming out of those fissures was very, very low. They didn't last very long, so no lava flow formed. So here's an updated map today. And we have fissure 11 opened this morning. We got the first report at about 10:30. There were no indications on our seismic instruments to indicate that it was where it would occur. But we did have a little bit of warning that something looked like it was going to come to the surface, but we didn't know where. That one shut off a little bit, and then we had another one a little bit downrift, and that was active this afternoon for a couple of hours. The ground cracks that I mentioned are sort of in alignment here, but just a little bit to the north. And so the suggestion is pretty clear that the intrusion of magma that we've been talking about that has come down into the lower East Rift Zone, went underneath Highway 130 somewhere. It might be right underneath about where those ground cracks occurred. Okay. So here's what fissure 8 looked like yesterday morning. It was more vigorous than the other 1 through 7 fissures, which were very short, mostly consisting of individual spatter events. But this one was more or less continuous, erupting lava along here. And enough lava was coming out of the ground that a lava flow formed here, and the main body went off this way. By late afternoon, that lava flow was diminishing in activity, but because there was still volume inside of the flow, it kept moving through the course of the evening a few tens of meters. This is what this flow looks like up close, as the geologists were mapping it and observing it yesterday. This is a map of that lava flow located here. And there are 2 different time intervals. So this was, the pink was up until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is when it was measured 3 o'clock this morning based on satellite imagery. We have a group of folks in back east that are utilizing satellite assets to be able to map these hot thermal features and lava flows through time. And there are some thermal maps that we have on the back on bulletin boards if you'd like to see those flows up close. Okay, so here's a view of the first fissure that erupted this morning. This is fissure 11, located right here, looking down the series of fissures that have been active the past several days, since last Thursday. And as Talmadge mentioned, it broke out outside directly the Leilani Estates community. It erupted in forest. And like I said earlier, no lava flows spread away from that fissure because the amount of material coming out of the ground was so low and for such a brief period of time. So another view, this is fissure 12 that was active a little bit later in the afternoon. And by 3 or 4 o'clock or so, that fissure also was done. So we have the 2 new fissures that were active today, no new lava flow. We have new cracks located on Highway 130, high levels still of sulfur dioxide gas when the fissures are active, and more activity can be expected in the future. And we just don't know when and exactly where those additional fissures may erupt. Thank you.